Welcome to our tutorial about running queries in Visual Studio. We're going to use Video.Net objects to execute SQL statements. SQL, as you probably know, stands for Structured Query Language. This is a language that's specifically designed to operate with table data. You might have also heard about T-SQL. This is a flavor of SQL developed by Microsoft, and it supports some extra features. Okay, I extended our users table a little bit. I've added some data. Let's take a look. State, age, subscription sign-up date. Now let's right-click on the table and select New Query. Let's select the users table, add, and close. Now we're in the query window. In this section, we can configure the query graphically. The next section is where we can edit the query by hand. In the last section, we view the results. We already know that to retrieve one or two rows of data from the database, we can use the select statement. We've used it in previous tutorials. After we finish our selection, we go to Query Design and execute SQL. We can see the results in the bottom section of the query window. Let's say we want to retrieve the top 3 records. We're going to type top 3 and execute query. Now only the top 3 records appear here. If we want to make the column header more friendly, let's say I type here ID. Here's first, space, name. Now let's run our query again. And the column headers are easier to interpret now. You see the select statement has changed as well. Let's learn how we can incorporate the like operator. Let's say we want to retrieve records where first names end in a certain letter, the letter M. We execute our query, and we end up with Tom and Adam, records 1 and 3. Here is the where statement. Here's the like operator. It performs string matching and retrieves all records where the first name ends in the letter M. Let's say we want to retrieve all the records that start with the letter C. We can put a percentage sign on the opposite side, and our results include 2 records, Colby and Craig. Let's say you're looking for a syllable or a letter combination. Let's say LE. We run the query. The results return nothing. Let's change the column that we're searching from the first name to the last name, and we'll run our query again. And let's display the last name column in our results. Now we see a list of results where the letter combination LE appears in the last name, Lee, Allen, etc. The like operator has extremely practical applications. Let's say you're looking for bookstores in your stores column. Instead of a letter combination, you can pull the word book. You'd pull all the stores that have the word book in their name. We can also incorporate square brackets here. Let's type LAD. Now all the last names that start with an L, an A, or a D will show in our results. Let's try another example. Let's say I want to combine the first and last name columns. We type the first name, a plus sign, 2 single quotation marks, the plus sign again, and the last name as username. Let's run our query. You see, we've got a new column called Username. It combines the first and last name into a single column. Let's say I want to insert a dash between the first and last name. I just enter the dash between the quotations. I run the query again. Now my results display a dash between the first and last names. Let's try looking for records where the first name is Nick. I'm using a filter now. Run the query. We've pulled two records, records number 2 and 15. And here is the where statement, where first name equals Nick. Let's add one more. I'm going to replace the username column with joined. Output is checked. Let's filter. Oops. Let's pull records of people who joined after December 23, 2006. Or I can simply change the operator and I'll pull people who joined before this date. Maybe I want to pull a specific date. Or even a second date. Now we're looking for people who joined on December 23, 2006 or April 6, 2007. I've got two records here. Let's check to see how we can count the total number of records. And as a result, we see our total of 13 records. Let's pull the age column now. Age as age. Now let's create a second column where we'll subtract 3 years from each user's age to make them younger. Now people who were 34 are now 31. Let's find the youngest person in our database. We enter min age as min age. "19. Let's see who our oldest user is. Maximum age, 68. Let's check to see what the average age of our customers is. 38. Let's try separating the joined column into its component years, months, and the date. That is, separate the joined date into 3 separate columns. Let's display a month, date name, as a word instead of a number, and execute the query. Now here in the month column, we see the month named, February, January, December, and so on. Let's create a column that shows for how many days each customer has been a subscriber to our website. We do this by taking today's date and using the dateDiff function to calculate how many days exist between today's date and the date that the customer signed up for a subscription. Instead of a date argument, we can also use the hour argument, for example, to figure out how many hours ago the record was created. Perhaps not so useful in this particular context, but it does illustrate how flexible your query can be. Just for fun, let's increase the resolution. How many minutes ago did each customer join? We could also do seconds if we wanted. And here is the age of our customers' records in minutes. Let's learn how we can add days, months, or years to our records. Here's our original record and plus 10 days. In our next example, we're going to learn how to use the upper and lowercase functions. Here we've converted names in the first name column to their uppercase equivalents and all last names into lowercase. We could use the reverse function to display the text in reverse order. The last thing I want to demonstrate is how to calculate the sum of the records in a column. For example, let's calculate the combined age of all of our subscribers. It's 494 years. As you can see, SQL is a relatively simple language, but it's extremely powerful. In this particular tutorial, we learned just what the select statement can do, and this is really just scratching the surface. SQL is a very deep and very capable language. And this concludes our tutorial about writing queries in Visual Studio.